Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Popcorn Podcast. I'm Tommy Crusta, and this is another one of my solo episodes. And if you follow us on Instagram, or if you follow us on any of our socials, actually, you know that last year I started a new tradition where I will do 30 horror movies throughout October, and then post the episode on Halloween. And normally it was a countdown last year, and that was just me watching 30 horror movies and every day reviewing one and putting on my letterbox. This year I decided to do something a little bit different, which I thought would be a little bit more interesting than just the basic, oh, this is what I watched, this is what I quickly think about it. So I decided to go and do the Science of Scare list, which ranks the scariest movies of all time, and it does it by science. And they do, I think it's 50 movies, but in the sense of Halloween, I did 30, so they'll come out on the 31st. In 2020, they founded the Science of Scare Project. It's an experimental category that finds the scariest movies in existence based on what gets the heart pumping impulses rating. It is now in its fourth year, and the Science of Scare is back and bigger than ever, tracking the scariest movies ever made at its new home of Money's Supermarket broadband, which you can go and check out the list yourself. I think it's really interesting. Each year, they curate a list of the most terrifying English language films and puts them on a 250 strong panel. So they have 250 different subjects watch these films. The test subjects are invited through special screens of their films, and then they are fitted with a heart rate monitor, and the heart rate is then tracked through each of the movies. To prevent audiences fatigue, screens take place over a course of a couple weeks throughout the year, and then they are published their results in October, just in time, as I said, for Halloween. In the previous years, they measured the average impact of their shortlisted films on a heart rate scale measured in BPM of their subjects compared to the average resting BPM of total sample size. However, in 2023, they developed a more detailed way of measuring with the creation of the Science of Scare score. One of the main feedbacks, though, that they received across their list of horror aficionados communities is that they weren't using enough psychological factor heart rate, meaning that the study favored heavily towards jump scares based movies rather than slow burn horror. So in 2023, they introduced the Science of Scare score, a combination of multiple factors to rank the scariest films. The Scare score system, which combines both heart rate and heart rate variance, returned it in 2024, and just in time for this list, because when I first started doing this list, it was still the 2023 list. Halfway through October, I saw that they had now posted their 2024 list, so then I restarted the list and made sure that I only did the films for 2024 just to make sure that this list can work for the year. If you're new to the show and you want to see things, you can go back to this and it'll still be up to date. But on the other hand, they did also have a heart rate variance, the HRV, which measures the time in between each beat of your heart. The lower the heart rate variance, the more stressed their audience members became, a good indicator of a slow burn, fear, and dread. After collecting the average heart rate increases and HRV decrease, they then combine both scores to create a Science of Scare score out of 100. For comparison, Shrek holds a scare score of 3 out of 100. Very, very interesting. And I don't really want to spoil what the scariest movie is on the list, so I am going to start just reading through it and giving you guys the top 30 scariest movies according to science, and then I can also read through and tell you what their actual scores are, go across the heart rates and all that, just so you guys can get a little bit of a idea of how it works. So starting at number 30 was Insidious: The Red Door. This has a heart rate. The BPM is at 64. The heart. They had their spike. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep my place. The spike jumped the heart rate up to 112. The difference in BPM was a 12, and the horror score for this was a 64. Sorry. Sorry, just a quick email I had to check. And then coming at number 29 was Halloween from 1978, which also had a heart BPM of 64. It had a spike of 103. The difference was 13, and the horror score was also 64. Coming at 28, another horror icon classic is A Nightmare on Elm Street, which also struck at a 64, had a spike of 105 with a horror score of 64. Then we come in at number 27 with Barbarian, which comes in at a 64. Of course, I'm just gonna stop doing that because that's the average heart rate. That is the average heart rate for every person, and the average movie heart rate is what I'll start doing more now. And oh my god, did it wrong. Oh no, I messed up my list. There we go. Sorry about that. Quick little brain fart by Tommy, of course. just like in every other episode. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre comes in number 26. I think I skipped Barbarian. The average heart rate for the movie was a 78. The biggest spike jumped it to a 97. Its average difference was a 14, and the scare score again was a 64. Coming in at 26, as it says, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. The average heart rate for this film was a 77, with the highest spike being 99. The overall difference again was a 13, and with a scare score, the first one breaking out the 64 is a 65. Coming at 25 is A Quiet Place, which had a 78 average heart rate for the film. It jumps with the highest spike of 120 and had a scare score of 67. Then at number 24, we had Stop Motion sitting at a 78 with the highest spike of 103 with a scare score of 67. Uh, the first time on this list is Terrifier 3, which now comes in sitting at a 79 with a high spike of 97 and a scare score of 68. Jumping in at 22 is its predecessor, Terrifier 2, which comes in at a 78 with a highest spike of 91 and a scare score of 68 as well. Then number 21, another horror icon now, is The Ring, which comes out at a 78 average heart rate with a highest spike of 114 and a scare score of 69, the first one to break out of the 68 now. And coming out at number 20 is a new film from this year, and that is Oddity. Oddity strikes in with a 77 average heart rate, a 108 spike, and a 69 score as well on the scare score. Number 19, breaking into our top 20, is Insidious Chapter 2. This has a 78 average, 118 spike, and a 70 scare score, the first one to break into the 70s. At number 18, we have The Autopsy of Jane Doe, just starring Brian Cox. This had an average heart rate of 78 with a spike of 122 and a scare score of 70 as well. Breaking inside the 70s now. For number 17, we have A Quiet Place Part 2, which had an average heart rate of 80, biggest spike of 123, and a scare score of 71. At number 16, we have The Babadook, which sat at a 79 average heart rate for the film, a 119 spike, and then has a scare score of 72. Now, the top 15, we are starting off with Paranormal Activity, which of course is an iconic classic, especially in the found footage department and the paranormal department. This film sits now at a 80 average heart rate, a 115 spike, and a 73 scare score. At number 14, we have The Descent, which had a 79 heart rate, a 121 spike, and a 74 scare score. At number 13, we have The Dark and the Wicked. This is Brian Bertino's film. This is an 80 average heart rate, an 88 spike, and a 74 scare score. Now, inside our top 12, we're going to start off with It Follows, which sits at an 81 average heart rate, a 96 spike, and I lost my place, 74 scare score as well. The Conjuring 2 comes in with a 74 scare score, 79 average heart rate, and a 116 spike. Now coming into our top 10 by science is Hell House, LLC, which comes in at an 81 average heart rate, 107 spike, and a 75 scare score. Number 9 is Talk to Me, the A24 horror superstar film from last year. Comes in at a 79 with a 106 spike and a 75 scare score. The Exorcism of Emily Rose sits in at an 82 average heart rate, a 96 jump to a 96 in the spike department, and a 76 scare score. Number 7 is Smile with an 83 average heart rate, a 114 spike heart rate, and a 78 scare score. Number 6 is Hereditary, which comes in at 82 with a 104 spike and an 81 scare score. The Conjuring comes in at 84 average heart rate, a 132 spike, and an 88 scare score. Now, our first film in the 90s with a scare score is Insidious at number 4, which comes in with an 85 average heart rate, and then that has a 85 average heart rate, a 133 spike, and a 90 scare score. At number 3, we have Skinamarink, Kyle Ball's film from 2022, stays in its top 5 position, comes in at 84 average heart rate, 113 spike, and 91 scare score. Host, the 60-minute heart racing film, puts it at an 88 average heart rate, a 130 spike, and a 95 scare score, and again reclaiming its crown at number 1. According to Science's Scott Derrickson's 2012 supernatural horror film Sinister, which is now a 3-time winner. The film stars Ethan Hawke as a true crime writer, Elliot Oswald, who in his obsession with a series of grisly events documented in chilling 8mm footage, unwittingly puts his own family in danger. The audience experienced a 34% uplift in heart rate when they watched this film from 64 BPM up to 86 BPM across the film, with the film's scariest moments sending hearts pounding to 131 BPM. HRV dropped by 21% among viewers, the second lowest of any film on this list, indicating a perfect balance of startling moments and slow burn scares, both combined to give Sinister a scare score of 96 out of 100. Sinister had originally been crowned the scariest film of all time in their initial 2020 list before losing its spot to Host in 2021. However, it is Sinister's ability to give our viewers the sinking feeling that edged its way back into first place. Now, going through that, this film, as I said, there's a lot of new films making this list. Despite all that, what I just said, and giving that there's new films, 10 new films have been screened for their 2024 panel. Only one entry, though, Oddity, broke into the top 20 list, meaning that there are no significant changes to the top end of the table. Second place does remain Host with the Zoom-based horror film scoring a 95, just 1 point below the top spot. However, Host still got audiences' heart rates beating faster than any movie on this list. In third place remains 2023 remains Skinamarink with divisive high-concept horror film terrifying audiences despite of its lack of a clear narrative. Skinamarink impacted audiences' heart rates more than any other film in their list at 22%, causing the most stress and dread among viewers of the scare score of 91. Rounding out the top 10 list, as I said, was Insidious, The Conjuring, Hereditary, Smile, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Hell House LLC, and Talk to Me. So the other list, if you guys want to know some other films that they did rank, they said new films that did come out. Yeah, 10 other films that could have been on this list were. They did Oddity, Terrifier 3, Stop Motion, Immaculate, Long Legs, The First Omen, Late Night with the Devil, Alien Romulus, Speak No Evil, and The Substance. Alien Romulus, Speak No Evil, and The Substance did not make it on this list at all. They did not make the top 50. Late Night with the Devil came in at 49, The First Omen 47, Long Legs 42, and Immaculate came in at 40. And as I said, Stop Motion, Terrifying, Oddity all made the top 30 list. Now, with all that said, there are some quick facts that I thought would be cool for everyone to hear about all this list, and that is, as I said, Sinister does reclaim the number one spot this year. Smile's performance has Sasha Bacon and Kevin Bacon are the first father-daughters to make it on this list. Ethan Hawke and Patrick Wilson hold the record for features on this list. Wilson has a whopping 6 times across the Conjuring and Insidious franchise. James Wan and Scott Derrickson. Wan has 4 positions and Derrickson has 3. Feature more films than any other director, and that is, pretty cool. James Wan being my favorite horror director, and so it's exciting to see what else will come of this over the years. But that is not why you guys are here. You guys are here to hear my opinions on this list. So the way I'm going to be doing this is I will be working my way from 30 in, and so starting from me at number 30, I had Terrifier 2. There's nothing against this movie that I have. I have a major fear of clowns, so of course it does scare me a little bit. But I think Terrifier 2 is the weakest of the 3 Terrifiers, which is not I know it's kind of a hot take, but the second one did not scare me very much. I thought the story was all over the place. I didn't think there was many scares. It was just very much gore porn, which is not for me. Moving on from that into number 29 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I do not like this movie. I know it is low budget, and I appreciate what it did for the franchise, what it did for the genre of slasher horror. That does not let it just slide with it, to me, not having a single scary moment, not having one moment of dread for me, except for maybe that final shot of Leatherface just dancing around, swinging the chainsaw, which I think is just such an iconic moment. But yeah, outside of that, nothing that I really like. Me and my dad agree. Not very scary, not very good. At number 28, does stay A Nightmare on Elm Street, stays at the 28th position. I love this movie. This movie will forever, to me, be a great horror movie, a great scary Halloween film. But a lot of the visuals and stuff like that just aren't as scary now after all these years and such advancements in visual effects and practical effects. At number 27, I have The Ring. The Ring is an iconic character, the little girl climbing out of the TV. But the movie itself is a awesome, awesome movie. If you've never seen it, please go watch it. It's a very enjoyable film, and it's a really fun time. But it's not very scary. It has one great scare at the end, but all in all, I don't think the film is very scary in total, but it's very good. Brian Cox gives a very, very creepy performance in such a small amount of screen time. But yeah, The Ring will stay at number 27 for me currently. Going into 26, I have Barbarian, a film that I have been very critical of from since the time it came out, since I was able to go to the premiere of it. And my biggest issue is that this movie marketed itself as one of the scariest movies that has ever been coming out. It was so terrifying, and it ends up being more of a dark comedy than it is a straight up horror movie. This movie has one good scare to me, and it's in the very beginning of the film. The rest of the film is kind of laughable, especially I think the third act is actually quite terrible. But that's not what we're here to talk about the actual film. We're here to talk about scares. It's not very scary to me, so it's going to stay outside the top 25. Moving into our first film in the top 25 is A Quiet Place 2, a movie I do enjoy. Again, don't find it very scary. I don't find any of the Quiet Place films that scary, but the one I find the most scary, surprisingly, is A Quiet Place Day 1, the one with Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn. So that will stay. Quiet Place 2 does fall to 25 for me. At 24, I have A Quiet Place 1, another movie. I don't find them, either one of these, very scary, but I find them scarier than the ones listed above. Moving inside of that, the first one, actually, no. They probably don't get very scary until the top 20. So Insidious, The Red Door does come here because there were a couple of jump scares that did get me. But I know jump scares aren't what horror is all about, but none of these movies so far have really scared me in any capacity. And moving into that is number 22. I have The Babadook, which I really enjoyed, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I ever thought I would. And I highly recommend people go check out The Babadook. Very, very cool concept, very cool character, very cool movie with some really good acting. Again, just wasn't super scary to me. Now, moving into number 21, we have It Follows. I know a lot of people really love this. I know I'm pretty sure it's in the top 10 on this list, isn't it? No, it's not. It's number 12 by Science. But for me, it just doesn't work. It's not super scary. There's the scene with the giant man who comes into the room, very creepy, and the scene with the old woman on the campus. Those scenes are very good. Outside of that, I do not find the film to be that scary. And now moving into our top 20, where every film from here on in I do find scary, and I do highly recommend if you want to be scared watching every movie I list from here on out. At number 20, I have The Autopsy of Jane Doe, a super creepy morgue style trapped horror movie with some really good twists. And Brian Cox again gives a really, really good performance in a really great movie that has some good scares throughout. I highly recommend Autopsy of Jane Doe. At number 19, I have Hereditary, a film that I don't love as much as the rest of the horror community, but I can still say it has some really good scares and a really creepy, creepy ending. So Hereditary will say number 19 for me. At number 18, I have Stop Motion, the 2023 horror live action / animation horror by Robert Morgan. I know it's very controversial. People either love it or hate it, but it tells it's about a talented stop motion animator who becomes consumed by this grotesque world that she created. Has some really creepy scenes. It's really scary. I really, really, really recommend people should watch it. I think it has some really technically cool horror stuff it's really unique. I think people should really go watch it because not a lot of people will, and I think it should be seen by a lot more people. Going into number 17, a movie that my family loved, my mom and dad, that I had never seen. I kind of pushed it off for a long time, and that is The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which combines a courtroom drama with a exorcism horror, and I think it does a really great job. I love this movie now. I will definitely be rewatching it next fall because I'm going to take a really long break from horror after all these movies. But I think it does have some really good scares, and the devil has always terrified me, and that will continue on this list, as you guys will see. But anything with the devil, demons, and stuff will definitely go higher on my list than any slasher or anything like that. But yeah, Exorcism of Emily Rose sits at 17 for me. At number 16, we have Smile, the 2022 horror film, I think. But Smile, very scary. Great jump scares. Great, just gives you that queasiness in your chest and that feeling of dread with the creepy smiles, and it has some good twists. It's a great story. Saoirse Bacon, Kevin Bacon's daughter, she was great in it. But now seeing Smile 2, I think Smile 2 is both scarier and better. So I would have put Smile 2 on this list if I could. But yeah, Smile sitting at number 16 for me. I definitely still recommend it. I think it's very scary. Me and my girlfriend just watched it the other day, and she thought it was very scary and did not like the smiles at all. So that was fun for me. Now we are halfway through our list. We are going into our top 15 on this list. And that will start off with Insidious Chapter 2, a movie that I absolutely love. I love the Insidious first 3 movies, and I really think that all 3 of them are very good. This was the last one James Wan directed, a direct sequel to the original. And it has some really good scares. There's a scene in the parlor with the mom, and again, always scary. The cross-dressing nun lady, she's also very scary. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. This movie just has some really good jump scares, and it builds up a lot of dread that a lot of them all pay off for me. At number 14, we have Talk to Me, which I, again, really love. Talk to Me. It sets the mood for the film in the first 5 minutes so well, and it has so many good jump scares. It has so many good moments of gore, has so much dread, it has anxiety-inducing sequences. The score is so good. Uh, El Lamod is on my playlist. It's a great score, but the scenes with the possessions are so well done. They really, really skeeve me out. So I think Talk to Me is a really, really good horror movie with some great scares, and I think more people should watch Talk to Me. Especially, it's one of those movies I didn't think would be as scary outside of a movie theater, which there's a couple on this list that I was wrong. The rest of them are actually on from this position into number one. But really good. Love Talk to Me. I'm very excited to see what those the two brothers do next. At number 13, I have this is the newest film actually on this list. This is Terrifier 3. I don't like Terrifier 2. I think Terrifier 1 is really creepy, and I think it's for the budget they put it on is a really amazing job by Damien Leone to be able to make that film. Art the Clown is already to me a horror icon. And Terrifier 3 just adds to that. It has some actually good jump scares, which I do like my jump scares. It had good moments of dread and building up. It was able to make you laugh, even for me who has an anxiety-induced fear of clowns. It has some of the best gore I've ever seen, some of the most disgusting kills in a movie. But all around, Terrifier 3 is a very, very good horror movie. It is a very good gore porn movie, and is a very good scary movie. I think it hits all the beats, and I think it's a really good Halloween movie, even though Terrifier 3 is technically a Christmas movie. But not why we're here. Now, at number 12, I have the Zoom call Seance Gone Wrong, Host. I really enjoyed Host. I don't find it as scary as a lot of people do, but it definitely does have some scares, especially in that final 15 minutes. It definitely just is nonstop because the movie is only 60 minutes, but recommend Host to a lot of people. And I think if you're newer to horror, I think it's a great, if you want to get scared and you're still new and you're kind of nervous, I think Host is a really good way to do it because there's some great jump scares, but it's not super over the top scared to me. At number 11, we have The Dark and the Wicked, Brian Bertino's film. Me and my buddy Ian watched this movie in my basement, and I jumped a lot. I yelled a lot, I screamed a lot, and I cursed a lot. I'm sorry, my dogs are very loud. But that's not why we're here. But yeah, The Dark and the Wicked is a movie that I really enjoyed. I thought it has some really great moments of scares. It builds a lot of anxiety, and every single jump scare in this film works, and it never feels cheap. Yeah, Brian Bertino, I think, did a great job of being able to use such a small space to make such a creepy movie, and it doesn't all ever feel too much, and it doesn't ever feel like it drags. The movie flies by and definitely holds my attention from beginning to end. Into our top 10, this is where I know people are going to get a little annoyed with me and my opinions. But at number 10, I have Sinister, a movie that I really love. It's in my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. But again, it has never scared me at the same pace that other horror movies have scared me. And I just think Scott Derrickson's a great horror director, and I would love to see him keep making horror films. And Sinister is an iconic horror film that everyone that loves or says that they love horror should see, and it is still very scary. At number 9, I have Halloween. This movie has scared me since I was 7 years old, all the way up until I'm 23 years old. I think that the best thing about this movie is that it doesn't need blood. It doesn't need a ton of jump scare. It doesn't need any of that. It just is scary. Michael Myers is a horror icon and will forever will be and will always be the best slasher character ever. I love Halloween. I love this film. I watch it every year. And yeah, I think it's still a top 10 scariest movie of all time. I don't care what anyone says. It could have been higher on this list for me if it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, I think all 10 could all kind of change positions at any point. Just depends on the day and what I watched recently. I've watched all these recently. Number 8, I have The Conjuring 2. I know a lot of people don't love The Conjuring 2 as much as they love The Conjuring. I am on the opposite. I think The Conjuring 2 is awesome. I think it's super scary. I think James Wan took a big swing. Did a lot of different things in this one. Introducing us to the nun, introducing us to a lot of these folklore tales, and having a lot of different characters show up and different creatures, entities, whatever you want to call them. And I think James Wan is just the best. I think the dude knows how to direct. I think dude knows how to make things scary, and he does a great job with this movie. I think it's terrifying. At number 7, I have The Descent. The Descent is so good. This movie will never not be scary. If you have a fear of monsters, it's scary. If you have a fear of claustrophobia, it's scary. If you have a fear of the dark, it's scary. It literally, any of those things work. It is just a scary movie. It has great violence. It has great dialogue. It has great jump scares. I love this movie, and I'm very happy that with every rewatch, I find little things different. And seeing the creatures in the background before you get to actually see them is always such a cool little thing to me. Moving into our top 6, at number 6, at number 6, I have Insidious, a movie that I love. It is the first horror movie not first. It's probably the first horror movie that I remember watching and being truly terrified of. I was scared of Michael Myers. I remember pausing Insidious and sitting in the dark and being genuinely scared to keep watching it. But I love it. I think it could have been number 1 on this list as well. From 6, it could have been any of these spots. I love this movie. I think it's so scary, and I've seen it 30 times, and I still get scared when watching it. At number 5, I have Oddity, which if you haven't seen Oddity yet and you're a horror fan, you need to watch it. It is so good, and it moves at a breakneck pace. My friend Connor and me watched in my basement, and I legitimately woke my mother up because of how loud I yelled at one moment. It is so scary, and it keeps the tension. It's weird, it's different, it's unique. It doesn't feel like it's copying anything. It's just scary. It is scary from the first scene to the last scene, with jump scares, with dread, with everything in between. Oddity is one of the best horror movies I've seen in recent memory, and I have a feeling it's going to be staying in my top 15 horror movies of all time for a long time. Now, moving into number 4, I have Paranormal Activity. I love 1, 2, and 3 of the Paranormal Activity franchise. I think all 3 of them are awesome. I love that it's one story, and I think more people need to watch them because I think that people kind of just like, oh my god, the Paranormal Activity franchise, like terrible. Those first 3 are terrifying. They are all very scary. I don't think 1 is the scariest though. I think 3 might have the scariest. 1's probably the scariest from beginning to end. 3 has the scariest scene in all of them. I love Paranormal Activity, and I'm very excited to continue watching this franchise. And hopefully, they said there's a new one coming out. Hopefully, they kind of go back to the roots of the original 3 and they find their footing a little bit. Now, moving into our top 3 scariest movies of all time by science. At number 3, it stays on number 3 for me and for science, and that is Skinamarink, Kyle Ball's high-level horror film that uses no real dialogue, no real story, no real narrative, and none of that, and it decides to just be scary as fuck. This movie is terrifying. I remember seeing it in theaters, and it still, to me, has the scariest scene in a horror movie of all time. And it's the bedroom scene with the parents and Kaylee, the daughter. And it is truly a terrifying moment in a scene of a movie that is scary from beginning to end in the weirdest way possible. It is uncomfortable. It's anxiety inducing. It makes you feel like a little kid again when you would wake up and you're like, I need a drink of water, and you go downstairs and it's dark and you think you're seeing things, you think you're hearing things. It plays into those natural fears that everyone has. I think a lot of people need to watch this movie. I know it's not for everyone. I know most of my friends that went and saw it with me hated it. I really liked it, and I thought maybe it won't work as well sitting in my basement because I feel like you need sensory deprivation for this. Like it needs to be the only thing you're paying attention to, which still might be true. But I could do it in my basement with Connor, and Connor loved it. I loved it, and it's just a genuinely really good horror movie. And I think people need to, if you watched it once, rewatch it again because I thought it maybe my biggest issue was maybe it was a little bit long. This time, I mean, it flew by like that, like snapping my fingers, the movie was over. It's so scary, and I think maybe the final 10 minutes could have been cut, but that hour and 30 minutes of it out of the hour and 40 are perfect scary horror vibes. Love Skinamarink, and it's gonna stay on that list. I've jumped it from a 3.5 to a 4 on my letterbox now. I love this movie, and I will never stop supporting Skinamarink. At number 2, I have Hell House LLC, a movie that terrifies me, and I think is probably the best found footage horror movie of all time. I need to see like Mungo and a couple other ones, My Cat Anne and stuff like that. But Hell House LLC is terrifying because I love Bates Motel. Eastern State Penitentiary, all this horror, like the little like haunted houses you can walk through. Hell House plays into the fear that everyone I think thinks about once or twice. Like, what if these people are just crazy and one of them is like not an actual actor and they're just gonna hurt me? It plays into that. It uses clowns. I fucking hate clowns. They're fucking terrifying. They're the worst things on that anyone's ever thought of. Because who wants to be a fucking clown, wears creepy ass makeup, and just looks scary? Love Hell House. Love Carmichael Manor, the prequel that came out last year. And yeah, but Hell House LC is terrifying. I just watched it again for the 5th time probably this year. Still scares me. Still curl up on my couch and cover up to my eyes with my blanket. Yeah, I love Hell House LC. I think everyone should watch it. It's super scary. And to me, the scariest movie on the top 30 by science is The Conjuring. James Wan, again, my favorite horror director. This man is amazing at what he does. His ability to make you care so much for these characters that every time they're put in peril or in a moment of fear, you feel that same fear for them. And you feel that fear for yourself. When they are chasing the mom in the house when she's going after the daughter, and he yells Bathsheba, and her head turns, and it's now the demon instead of the mom. So scary. Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson are iconic as Ed and Lorraine Warren. I'm so excited to see the 4th Conjuring. But I truly believe The Conjuring is the greatest horror movie of all time and the scariest film that has ever been made. And James Wan did an amazing job of making every scene feel so real and so visceral. And yeah, I will never stop believing that The Conjuring is the scariest movie of all time. Skinamarink gave it a run for its money when I went and saw it in theaters. And so did Hell House, but nothing is ever going to pass The Conjuring for me. That is yeah, that is my list of the scariest movies of all time, going off the list of scariest movies by science. I hope everyone has an amazing Halloween, and yeah, I will see you guys when we do our next episode about the Penguin. I'm so sorry about my dogs, but yeah, happy Halloween, everyone.